We're about to save this model and strip it of everything so that we can work on some space plans. But before we do that, because we know someday we're going to come back to this model, let's get rid of this pool because our space plans in our new design that we're proposing doesn't give room for this pool. So we are pretending that we have been hired by this building to show what will happen once they get rid of the pool and how they can reuse the space more effectively for three different purposes. So let's first, easiest thing to do, just select that water and delete it. Next thing I'm going to do, select the floor slab, right click and lock it, then select everything else, hide it. Right click again and unlock it, and then double click to open it up. Using the select from, left to right, I'm going to select everything that is associated with that pool and just delete it. Okay, now clicking back out in space, I'm going to Shift U and unhide all. So we're back to our perspective working. Notice how when we go back to perspective working, the pool doesn't come back because this scene is not saving geometry. It's saving things like camera location, style, things like that. So in all of our views now, the pool is gone. So we've just filled it in and we're actively updating every scene and every shot because the shots are not associated with the stuff that we've actually made. Okay, so let's file, save this. Okay, this is a model that we're going to return to. So we've got our pool building for presentation. We're keeping that file nice and tight. Now what we're going to do is we're going to file, save as, and we're going to go back to that same folder. So I'm navigating back to where I had saved this first one the first time. And this time I'm going to call this pool building for space plan. Save. Okay? And here's what we're going to do. We're going to clean this model up just a little bit. So now we're not as worried. This is not as precious to us. Let's take a look. One of the first and easiest things you can do to clean up a model is to get rid of your materials. We don't need to see the materials for this, especially if we're looking just purely at a space plan. So I'm gonna go ahead and close my scenes because I want to keep those. I'm going to pull up my materials by accessing my bucket tool. So here are all the materials I have in this plan. In a real world scenario, chances are that you will probably, when you're first modeling your own project, you'll probably amass way more materials than this, especially when you're trying things out. We really only have the materials that came in this model by default as a result of the scale figure. And we also have the materials that we added ourselves. And we were very, very deliberate about that. But if we were designing something from scratch, we would probably have way more materials than this. Materials really bog your model down. They're really heavy, especially if you bring your own materials in from outside sources. They can be real file eaters. So when I'm working on something and I want to make a duplicate model just for the purposes of kind of playing with a plan, what I do is I go to my materials window and I go down under list and I do delete all. And what that does is that strips the model completely clear of all the materials. I don't have to manually go in and delete the ones that I don't want. Let me undo that. I can also delete or purge unused. And so it's deleted a few things. Like I think it just deleted the pool tile, the water, because those are elements that we just deleted. But we still have all of this other stuff that we don't want. So again, I'm going to pull down list and delete all. Okay? Another thing I'm going to do, so now when I go to my perspective working shot, all those materials are gone. Those materials are gone because I deleted them, and that's why this looks different. This doesn't look different because we've created a new style for it. So now if I look at any of these views, any of these perspectives, any of these sections, everything's going to be clean, raw material. And this is going to make it a lot easier and make it a lot faster to work. Another thing that you can try is going to Window, Model Info, and you can go to Purge Unused, and fix problems. This is a really light model because we've made it clean and deliberately. And we also haven't downloaded a lot of components and brought them in. So there's not much to purge and there's not much to fix. But this is showing me that I've got 15,938 edges, 6,274 faces, all this information that's like good to know. So if you have a real bogged down, crazy heavy model, a good thing to do is to check under Window, Model Info, and try to purge some of this stuff. It's also going to purge any unused layers that you have, any unused styles or dimensions, any of that stuff. There's a lot of stuff that this is counting and looking for. So it's kind of good to know that you can go to Window, Model Info. Okay, so we have purged our model and we are ready to start working on some space plan options.